after this pandemic. Oh my God,
Yes.
it's really overwhelming and nice. So happy that you are here. Thank you so much. And we are here to talk about a topic which is very close to our heart, and I hope that you can also relate to it in some of the instances which we are going to share with you. I am Tanu Mittal. I'm a product manager at Electrolux, and I am a software engineer by degree. Have been in the tech industry for around more than 15 years. I've been working in India and then coming to Sweden. I believe in balancing empathy and logical reasoning whenever I make any kind of decisions. So that's very important for me. Those are my core values. I moved to Sweden in 2010 and raised my family. I have 2 kids, 11 and 6, quite handful, playing Agile Coach at home right now. And I have a fascination for Northern Lights. So I do share stage with someone who has the same fascination. Ishlal.
Yes. Fun fact, after 5 years living in Sweden, I have never seen Northern Light. Every time it happens, I'm always sleeping for some reason. So I have fascinations that didn't come to reality yet. But here is the first challenge for you, for everyone today, which is pronouncing my name. So my name is Ijlal Tahir. If you know Arabic, you're good. If you know French, you're good. If you don't know any other of these languages, not gonna work. So it's like J sound. And I learned this when I moved to Sweden, right? I moved here back in 2017, all the way from Morocco. My previous manager convinced me somehow to embark into this digital transformation journey that we started within consumer service at Electrolux. I stayed there since I moved, right? One of my main, let's say, objectives and interests was always leadership and how it impacts our life, be it in, our humanitarian life or also corporate life as well. So I was always interested in the books, in the podcasts, in the TED Talks, and one of my objectives was always to actually make an impact and doing that by becoming a manager. And my journey started back in March 2020. I signed my contract to become a manager within Electrolux, but the pandemic happened, right? So pandemic happened, we went through a lot as humans, from shortage of toilet papers to a lot of pandemic babies in 2021, and also pandemic leaders, which I identify myself with. So my journey as a leader started within the pandemic, and how my experience is different from Tanu's experience, I guess we will see throughout this talk, right? And in terms of, how also the COVID-19 has impacted our life, can be actually seen in the Great Resignation phenomenon that we are actually living, right? So our friends are changing jobs. It's something that you can see as well on a day-to-day basis as well. And the study here shows the predictors of attrition during the Great Resignation and how the pandemic heightened the, let's say, challenges that we have within a corporate culture. And the main, let's say, leading predictor is what we call a toxic corporate culture. And that's the main reason why a lot of employees said, okay, we've had enough, we will change our jobs to find a better environment where we feel safe and we feel ourselves, basically. And the following study actually shows what is the definition of a toxic corporate culture, and it is actually separated into 4 categories: disrespectful, non-inclusive, unethical, cutthroat, and abusive. And today, of course, we're here to talk about non-inclusivity, right? So the pandemic heightened the impact of non-inclusivity within our environment. And we're not here to tell you guys, how to solve the issue. There are a lot of books, there are a lot of scientists, a lot of authors that are, more experimented than us, but the purpose of today's talk is to share our stories. It's a way for us to validate our experience with you all, and it's also a way for some people, maybe in this room, to relate to our experience and gain some of the insights that might be also relevant for you in this room as well. But we talked a lot about, statistics and trying to scope the problem. Maybe we need to run some kind of exercise to make it a little bit more specific to the people in the room today, right, Anu?
Yes, and we are going to ask you 3 questions and would like you to raise your hands if you feel that you had been in this situation or this has happened to you. So, have I ever been interrupted or spoken over? Oh, okay. Have I ever been questioned for my judgment in my area of expertise? Have I ever got comments on my emotional state?
Oh my God.
We thought so too, and so does the McKinsey's study from 2021, Women in Workplace. You see, there are some statistics. These are the numbers for the setbacks which female leaders has to went through in their career. Entry level or senior level doesn't matter. The lighter color is about the female, and the gray color is representing men. As you see, as the number of years of experience grows, for men, the percentage doesn't much change. But for women, the gap is just increasing. The more senior they are still being questioned. These 3 questions are very basic and important questions. I mean, where are we lacking? Why we need to feel like this at workplace? And this leads to a lot of burnout, a lot of dissatisfaction. There has to be some way out. What do you think, Ijlal?
Absolutely, and this is actually something we've talked about while preparing for today's presentation and talk. We are here, I don't think we need to convince anybody that inclusion is the right thing to do. Everybody agrees that inclusion is the right step, both from a morality standpoint and also from a profitability standpoint. It's good for business, right? It's, it's not the question here. I mean, the question that we are asking ourselves is, why are we still bad at it? Like, everybody raised the hand, right? We are still bad at inclusion. And the answer that myself and Tanu agree on is making inclusion actually more purposeful and intentional, right? It is not something that HR only works on to hit a number of KPIs by hiring diverse people from different backgrounds, both gender or cultural background and other backgrounds as well. It takes a lot of work. It takes awareness. That's the first step. That's something you have to work on a daily basis. It takes intention, not only from people that are doing the talent acquisition, but also senior leadership, allies, self-leaders as well. And most importantly, it is a day-to-day work. It's something very constant that everybody needs to take responsibility of. So we have to try, take actions, release proof of concepts, learn from setbacks, and continue again. So it is a continuous improvement.
Indeed, and I totally agree with that. Awareness is very important. Intention has to be there behind your every decision, every process. And putting it to practice is the most important part, which sometimes we forget to do. And this reminds me of one of my examples from 2012 when I was looking for a job. We moved to Sweden, and I was already working in India as a team leader. But when I moved here, I had to restart my career. I'm using restart because it was not a continuation with my same role or the leadership position which I was working there. It was more like, no, from the junior role. I would like to ask just a casual question here. How many of you have struggled to have moved to a new country and had to restart your leadership career? Quite many. So you all would be able to understand the sentiments here, because it was 2012. I am a woman. I am from India. What bad it could be. How tough it is. It was very tough. So I started with my very basic role just to get into the industry. I knew my way that once I am in, I know I will get there where I really want to be. But I lost a lot of time doing all of this. The males who had started career with me, they consider me now junior because they are far ahead. And that hurts because I did the same. I put the same efforts and things like that in my whole journey. And that bothers me a lot. So I believe it's very important that the only solution here I could see is from the company perspective, that companies need to include. They need to level up by being inclusive and unbiased in hiring and promotions, not just because we need to understand why I was going through that. Is it because they had some fear of having some female leadership from color in the new organization? Was it unawareness of biases, conscious or unconscious, in the organization, or it is something else? So I felt that it is the company's responsibility to first make sure that they have these things in place. They have hiring managers aware and trained with the conscious, unconscious bias trainings. And that will take us up with this problem of hiring. But that was 2012, and I mean, it's quite some time now. The good news is that I think hiring has been diverse. You are like
I have an
quite
example
recent,
of it,
so
right?
what do you think? Like, do you confirm
Yeah.
that it is better now?
I think, from my perspective as well, when I started this journey, my biggest challenge, or I thought what the challenge would be, is to get the opportunity, right? So that's what you, Tanu, you were talking about. Getting the opportunity back in 2020, I thought that I made it through, right? So all good. Now I'm a leader. I'm having a seat on the table with my team and colleagues. Let's start making an impact, right? So little did I know that actually the challenges that I would face after getting this opportunity are actually far more bigger than the opportunity itself, right? So my point is that getting a seat on the table is not the end of the journey as a female leader, right? So in my team, we are 8 people, 2 of us are women. So the lack of representation that does to a woman within such an environment, you don't get to understand the impact of it until you are there, right? And it's something that I myself cannot change, right? In order to find my own voice, in order to find my own space, I realized that it would have been, or it is, an easier journey with the support of my peers and my managers, and that's something I'm actually thankful of. I'm having always my one-to-ones with my manager, and we are quite open, and we talk about this a lot. How can I, find my own space, create my own space? How can I find my own voice within an environment that lacks representation? And that's a fact, right? And it should stop be a responsibility only on the woman or only on the minority, let's put it like this, to find their own voice and find their own space. It is the responsibility of the environment as well to support the creation of that. So that's, again, we anchor back to awareness and intention and the responsibility of everybody within the company to offer such an environment. And as I mentioned, in our team as well, 2 women in a team of 8, but only myself is a woman of color, right? So it's add another, let's say, layer to the minority aspect of, of the picture, right? So it's the lack of representation in that aspect as well can be challenging, because I come from a different background. So I come with different communication styles, I come with different cultural and ethnicity background, and it impacts the way I carry myself, the way I behave, right? And that also impacts the way I build relationship with my peers, with my stakeholders. And the fact is, when there is no such representation, everything you do it for the first time, and everything you do, you don't see others doing. So it's like breaking through a wall for the first time ever. And this minority within minority can be challenging, but when we were discussing with Tanu, it can be also leveraged as like a superpower for leaders. In the future, obviously, when we will be very diverse, the idea is that everybody will come with different backgrounds, and having an awareness that people are having different backgrounds can be leveraged as a tool for a manager to bridge the gaps between in the communication style between different people, right? How was your experience?
Totally agree, totally agree. I mean, like, I remember my own time when I moved to Sweden. In India, it was like, of course, I was facing challenges, the other kind, which we are talking about already. But then when I moved here, it was a different culture. So now I was like, okay, one more layer to it. And I remember, like in India, let's say, culturally, we have been taught to respect elders, seniors, no matter what role you are playing. And if you're a woman, then this duty becomes heavier. So I used to have some conversations, some tough conversations with some seniors or elder person in the team, and I would be like, okay, well, I'm feeling guilty to confront the person because that's how culturally I have been taught. But I am a leader as well. So in leadership, if I have to get my things done, the team is looking up to me as a role model and they will learn from me. So I have to overcome this guilt. And that's where I started looking into options, and I studied a bit around that how I can do something about this. And I figured that it's all about accepting the diversity, because diversity is in different nature, and it could be cultural, it could be gender, ethnicity, so many different things. And the first step towards this is accept it, that people can be different. There could be different ways of working, there could be different ways of speaking, or there could be different ways of wearing clothes. I mean, it's just very, very, on every level you can see different kind of diversity. So I felt like I reminded myself when I used to be a child, I used to travel around with my dad and had been exposed to many different religions, different people, ethnicity and languages. So I reminded that, you know what, I am comfortable with the diversity. I am okay. Why don't I use that? Because I am very easy to fit in different places. I can talk to different people in their manner. I catch like, okay, this is how they talk. Maybe it becomes more comfortable for them if I talk in their ways. So it's easy for me, and I started leveraging that as a cultural intelligence. And I think this, as a leader, this helped me a lot. And agile coaching also talks about this a bit. So if you want to try this out, try with agile coaching. Try to understand, because that's more about servant leader, understanding the emotions, understanding what people really are saying rather than the words they are using, give benefit of doubt. So these techniques really helped me, and I really leveraged my cultural intelligence there and keep it growing. Now, culture tells you how to live, but personality and core values tells you who you are. So it's very important that we should be ourselves, stick to your core values. Right, Ijlal?
Absolutely. I think the way we're setting up also the conversation now is that there are a lot of challenges on how to behave, or the challenges of the lack of representation that does to you, right? So you will hear a lot of course, the imposter syndrome that a lot of women, you know, they face because of these environments that are not inclusive. And it becomes more difficult to be true to who you are as a person. And in all of the books, right, of leadership, that's something that they always mention, and you should always abide by. And I personally had a difficulty to understand what it means practically, right? So theoretically, you need to be true to yourself. Of course, all good. On paper, it sounds good, but then practically speaking, on a day-to-day basis, what does that mean? And I remember having a talk with my manager in one of our one-to-one, again, talking about, you know, leadership and management style. And I mentioned that basically in my journey of becoming a successful leader, I was afraid of losing who I was. Like, you know, the Ijlal you know now might be different in 5 years. And the reason why I was scared is because all of my new peers, my stakeholders are so different than me. You know, they are older, a little bit more experienced. They dress a certain way, they behave a certain way, and we always joke that I feel like a little unicorn in this environment. And I mentioned that, you know, that's something I personally struggled with, and I remember he said that if anything you will resign. Like, I was like, okay, good. Then that we are good on. But then when I started digging deeper about, you know, what does it mean to be true to yourself, the only answer I got after, you know, reading a little bit more on, you know, Dare to Lead. So Brené Brown is one of my favorite authors of all time in terms of leadership, and she always mentions core values, finding core values, your core values, identifying what those are, so maximum 3 of them, and then live by them on a day-to-day basis. And that exactly dictates what it means to be true to yourself. And we mentioned this in the beginning of our presentation. Mine are basically courage, openness, and curiosity, and I'm trying on a daily basis to never compromise on these three values. Of course, that doesn't mean that I'm the only person who needs to do the work. I also need a supportive environment where I need to feel heard and I need to feel also seen in order to stick by those core values. So it doesn't happen only by myself. However, it is still something that any person, regardless if they have a team that they would need to lead or not, should identify in order to basically make an impact as a human in a corporate or also in a day-to-day life. Right, Anu?
And that's very important because I can give you an example. I hope you can relate to that as well. I was in a project and I had a conflict with one of my peer, and everything was just fine. We were arguing about something, and I think agree to disagree is fair to do, and it's very common. It's good. But at some point, I started to hear things like, "You don't understand. You don't know. Why are you saying this? Do you even hear what you're saying?" I started feeling like now he's not talking about my skills. Maybe something around my gender, cultural, many mixed feelings I was getting, and I could capture those cues. I didn't feel good about it, and I started feeling, and now I'm laughing because at that time I was actually doubting myself. I started looking into like imposter syndrome, that maybe I am wrong, maybe whatever I have achieved is not right, maybe I have not learned anything. He's right, he's, everyone gives attention to him, and maybe that's why they are here, they are growing, but I'm still here, like that, those kind of thoughts. Then I reflected on that, because of course these thoughts bother you a lot all the time, they just don't leave you. So I felt that no, maybe not, it's not the lack of confidence. It is maybe because what I'm facing is the systematic bias, which is happening repeatedly in the workplace. And I am getting used to it, and that is wrong, because now I'm trying to do things in their way, what they really want me to be. My core values doesn't say these things. As I said before, I believe in logical reasoning and finding a balance with the empathy. So maybe my communal and kindness being taken as weakness, and I reminded myself, nope, stick to your core values, Tanu, you cannot change. If I change, it's not sustainable. So stop doubting yourself. Be assertive in demands, because sometimes the way we ask questions, that also matters. If we are already doubting ourselves, our question would be more like a rhetorical question, which already gives an indication that we are already feel that we are not feeling confident or ourselves. And as a leader, I felt that it's very important that I give supportive environment to the people, and I should have some open communication channels with my team members, and especially the underrepresented ones, so that they can feel comfortable coming to me and talking about their concerns. So that was very important. And also one thing I would like to add here is on the allyship. We don't need titles to be leader. You can just, if you see anything like this, oppression or confusion or bias around you, just raise voice, give them a hand, mentor them, guide them, because that really helps. All people just want to hear is that out loud, that yeah, this is okay, what you're thinking is okay, you are not wrong. So do that, and be true to yourself. Now, these are the external thoughts because of the external factors, but we do have our own internal thoughts to fight with. I would ask you, how many of you have struggled with the dilemma of being good parent and ambitious at work? Yes, so we all had been through this. Now, I would like you to imagine a scene, a regular weekday morning. I have a very important business call with Asia Pacific at 9 o'clock, and we are getting ready. We have to eat our breakfast, getting dressed, and we are running around the house, waving our toothbrushes and just chilling, not in mood to get up. And I'm just screaming in my head that, oh, we are late, we need to go. And while leaving for the car with the kids, I am just thinking of like, oh my God, what all things were there which I need to pick? Is it the car keys? Oh, mobile, I have taken wallet, yes, laptop bag, gym bag, oh my God, and jujitsu bag for my daughter's evening class. Okay, am I forgetting anything? No, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, well. So you might relate to this with everyday morning struggle, no matter how supportive husband I have, whom I have shared my responsibilities with, but this still happens because along with these thoughts, you also have other thoughts which usually women tend to have. Anniversary gift for a friend, planning a birthday party, dropping your kid to somebody's play date, things like that. So a lot of things. This is called mental load. And this is exhausting, invisible, this is never ending. And this just takes away all the energy, you know. And remember, you are a leader, right, at work. So you still want to be ambitious, you still want to do good there, and people are looking up to you to do things. So this becomes very too much on oneself. Now, think of it, you reached office finally, leaving behind the madness at home. No, maybe at daycare, but now you are at work, and here comes the bouts of guilt. Oh, you know, I am missing the guilt of missing activities from kids, missing my daughter who had been in fight at school, but I'm not there to share her feelings. Whoa, well, it's a lot to handle. It's overwhelming. And if you are good, somehow managing these feelings, you will be judged. Well, I don't think you are doing a good job as a mom, professionally, or maybe as a leader. You are late at work. Oh, can't you take a meeting at 6? What's wrong? At 4? Oh, you have to pick kids. Can't your husband pick up? Things like that. So this, if there is no support from the work as well, this whole thing becomes too much. And this is never ending. So I felt that this brings out to a lot of burnout in people. And females specifically leave jobs. Sometimes they just prioritize their family because, of course, that is what we are feeling guilty as our core. But these are the statistics from McKinsey study 2021, Women at Workplace. Here you can see these are the 2 years comparison, and there had been definitely burnouts for men as well, as you see, but then the increase is just too much on the women's side, because they had been going through this pandemic with a lot of work. At household as well, there had been a lot of things, and being at home, working from home has definitely increased workload, because now you have a lot of time. You are not using train or anything to commute, so you can manage a meeting here and there. The painful part here is like as a senior female leaders, which is already very few in number, 50% had been reported burnouts. Now, my learnings out of all this is that first thing which I reminded myself to do is make your own decisions. Because if someone else is making my decisions and then I have to regret, it doesn't work. So I'm ready to regret on my own decisions. So make your own decisions. If you want to be ambitious, if you want to be ambitious at work, go for it. If you don't want to be ambitious at work, go for it, because that is also fine. Now, about the mental load, there are some tips which I tried. Plan and prioritize together with your family, because then you can share the responsibilities. It's not only your job. Then you have to stop feeling guilty, because I know it's not possible, but then you really need to work on it, because you have to own your decisions. So if you have decided, then don't feel guilty about it. You have to avoid burnouts with some me time. Go for friends, go with friends, movies, hang out, find a hobby, and also learn to let it go, because you are forcing yourself with a lot of number of items in the list. You cannot do everything. So let it go. Understand our emotional barriers as a leader in the workplace. And I think you have a very good story around it here.
Yeah, I think in terms of when we were discussing parenthood, I didn't relate. I don't have kids. I don't know what it is to be a parent. And I actually had recently to welcome back one of my direct reports in the team back from parental leave. And I, as a leader, who tries to empathize as much as possible and get closer to their team members. I struggled personally to relate to in this case, her situation as a mom. And I was quite anxious that I might not handle, the situation very well. So in my experience, what works for me at least, right, as a non-parent, having to lead somebody coming back from parental leave, is basically the most obvious thing: trust, right? That's something, regardless if that person is a parent or not, that's something that you have to have as a foundation within all of your team members. And also having this open communication prior to the parental leave to understand the mental state, because sometimes also they are anxious of leaving, a lifestyle. They are also in a verge of changing their whole, ways of, living life and work as well. So touch base before the parental leave. Also agree on some kind of communication channel throughout the leave. That worked as well. Of course, up to them if they want or not. For us, our peer in my team, for instance, he accepted part of his parental leave to basically, get still in the WhatsApp group. We still sharing, pictures of his kids. We share other, other activities that we have, after works, etc. And he was okay with this, and it's a way for him to still feel part of the team, and that's something also okay. And if the person also doesn't want to do that, it's still an okay answer as well. So there is no wrong or right answer. And after the parental leave, after the person comes back to the work, then have another open conversation, because the priorities might change. They might, in the beginning, say that, okay, I would like to still be ambitious, I want to do, I have more work, or become more of a team leader in the future. They might come back as a parent and say, my priorities has changed and I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do something else. That's okay. And vice versa also is okay, as Tanu was mentioning earlier. And my advice also for the new parent is basically just be open. Of course, you need trust, right? You need trust to achieve this kind of openness, but it is quite important, because kind is clear, and that's also something I'm always quoting from Brené Brown. She always says that being clear in the communication, regardless of what the content is like pure kindness as well, that you can offer to your leader and your leader can offer to you. And then you avoid a lot of ambiguities and anxiousness in the process.
And to summarize our presentation today, we concluded with some of the bullet points here. So there is a hope that female leadership is possible. It's good. We can be there. We just need to work on some things as an organization, some things as a leader, and some things as an ally around people. So as a company, we think that the most important thing is that companies has to prioritize these things, provide leadership which demonstrate and nurture equality, inclusion on purpose. This is very important. If company prioritize these goals, as a company-wide goals, then leaders follow. It becomes easier for the leaders to follow and break it down in their own goals with the teams and track it with metrics as well. So first is this. Second is eliminate gender bias, which is very, very important. I mean, like, it's still, we are 2022 and still talking about this because it is still needed. There is still a huge gap there. Drive a culture based on respect for diversity. As I said, openness, open-minded is very important to accept the diversity in hiring and performance review, everything. And as a leader, you can do a lot of things. You have to provide a supportive environment to your employees and reportings. So practice fairness and include equity in hiring and performance reviews, because hiring is done, but as Ijlal's example, it's very important that you are consistent throughout the journey of employee in your tenure, in your company's tenure. Then provide mandatory bias trainings. Now it could be unconscious, conscious bias, but it has to be trained. People have to understand this. Raise awareness at all levels, because that's where the culture builds. People are responsible to make the culture. And as a self being...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not only a leader that can level up the way we do leadership. It's also the humans and employees themselves. You don't need to have a team to actually basically just lead by example. So be yourself, right? And also arm yourself with grounded confidence. It doesn't have to be, the confidence that you see other people doing, or a definition of a male version of confidence. It can also be another version of it, as long as you are confident within the tools and your expertise. Understand the emotional biases from different peers, right? That's quite important. And most importantly, and something I hold to my heart, is the allyship, and becoming an ally is super important. It doesn't have to be some kind of extravagant cinematographic life-saving event. It can start with pronouncing somebody's name correctly, and that's why this is something quite important as well to do, right? And don't shy away from going and asking how to do that, instead of saying, okay, I don't know how to pronounce, or like dodging the bullet. And that way you are actually opening the relationship with people from other ethnicities and different backgrounds, right? And I can take also the opportunity here with all of the women here as well, to participate in one of our female leadership mentorship program that we have at Electrolux. You can scan the QR code, and we've done this mentorship before, and we are opening also this program to all of the participants here in this conference.
Yes, and thank you so much, and see you at the event.
Yeah.